Have you ever stopped to think about what's really pulling the strings inside your body? Deep in your brain, there's this hidden command center, a tiny but seriously powerful duo that controls pretty much everything, from how you grow to how you feel. So let's dive into this master control system.
So who is the real boss of your body? Well, I can tell you, it's probably not who you think. It is not your conscious mind, that's for sure. The answer is buried deep inside your endocrine system, where two tiny structures are running the whole show from behind the scenes.
All right, let's start at the very top of the food chain. We're talking about the body's ultimate control tower, the source of basically all hormonal commands, and that is the hypothalamus.
So meet the hypothalamus. And honestly, the best way to think about it is like the CEO of your body. It's not getting bogged down in the day-to-day stuff. Nope. Its job is to set the grand strategy, right? It sends out these high-level executive orders to its top manager using chemical signals.
And the chain of command here, it's actually beautifully simple. You've got the CEO, or hypothalamus, issuing an order. That order goes straight to its number one, the pituitary gland. The pituitary then gets to work executing that order by shooting specific hormones into your bloodstream. And those hormones, they're like little messengers traveling all over the body to get the job done.
Okay, so if the hypothalamus is the big picture CEO, that makes the pituitary gland the general manager. This is the one on the ground floor, taking those executive orders and actually turning them into real action.
But here's where it gets interesting. This general manager kind of has a split personality. It's got two halves. First, you have the anterior pituitary, which is like a busy factory floor. It's actually making and releasing its own hormones. But then you have the posterior pituitary, and that's more like a warehouse. It doesn't make anything itself, it just stores and releases hormones that were made upstairs by the CEO, the hypothalamus.
All right, let's dive into that front office then. We're headed for the busy factory floor, the anterior pituitary, to meet the all-star team of hormones it's cranking out.
And believe me, this team is seriously powerful. To help remember them, we've got a fantastic little mnemonic, FLAT PEG. This acronym covers the 6 major hormones made here, and each one has a super critical job, handling everything from reproduction and stress to your metabolism and even your growth.
Okay, now this is where you can really see the conversation happening between the CEO and the general manager. The hypothalamus doesn't just yell orders into the void. Nope, it sends very specific signals. See here? When it sends out GnRH, the pituitary knows, okay, time to release FSH and LH. But just as important, it also sends stop signals. For instance, when the hypothalamus releases dopamine, that's its way of telling the pituitary, hey, hold back on the prolactin for now.
So we've got the what, the hormones themselves. But what about the who? I mean, who's actually making them? Inside that anterior pituitary factory, you've got different teams of cells responsible for different hormones. So how on earth do we keep all that straight?
You guessed it, with more mnemonics. These are so helpful. Just remember B-flat. The B is the key here. It tells you that these hormones are made by basophils. And for the others, think acid pig. The hormones prolactin and growth hormone are made by acidophils. It's a great way to map each hormone to its specific production line.
Some of these hormones have really fascinating family trees. Take this one, POMC. It's a single, huge precursor molecule. The best way to picture it is like a big sheet of dough. The body can cut that dough into different shapes to make different things. From this one molecule, you get ACTH for stress, MSH for skin color, and even beta-endorphin, which is a natural painkiller. The mnemonic here is pretty fun. Go pro with a BAM. Okay, let's switch gears and head over to the posterior lobe. This is the other half of the pituitary, and it builds on our story in a different way. Remember, this is the quieter part of the office, the warehouse. It works completely differently than that busy factory floor we just saw.
And this is the absolute key point to remember here. The posterior pituitary doesn't make a single thing. It is purely a warehouse. It gets 2 very specific hormones already made and packaged by the hypothalamus, and it just holds on to them until it gets the green light to release them.
So what are these 2 special messengers? Well, first up is oxytocin. You've probably heard of it. It's often called the bonding hormone. It's crucial for things like childbirth and breastfeeding, but also for social behavior and mood. The second one is ADH, also known as vasopressin. This is the body's master water regulator. It's the one telling your kidneys when to hang on to water.
So you can see this is a really precise, beautifully balanced system. But
what happens when the signals get crossed, or when the commands get messed up? Well, that's when you start to see some real, very noticeable effects on the body.
And this chart is perfect for showing that direct link between a chemical change and a physical result. Take a really common example, drinking alcohol. Alcohol actually stops your body from releasing ADH. So without ADH telling your kidneys to conserve water, what happens? You end up with polyuria. Yep, you run into the bathroom a lot, and that leads to dehydration. It's a perfect cause and effect example.
Okay, let's look at another really fascinating clinical connection. This one's great because it shows how two hormones that seem totally unrelated are actually part of the same family, and that leads to a very surprising symptom. Remember our old friend POMC, the sheet of dough? Well, it's the source of both ACTH, the stress hormone, and MSH, the hormone for skin pigmentation. So because they come from the exact same starting molecule, in conditions like Cushing's disease, where the body is just pumping out way too much ACTH, you also get a ton of MSH as a byproduct. And the result of that? Hyperpigmentation, which is a darkening of the skin. It's a direct link. This is a perfect example of how one single problem can set off a whole domino effect. A prolactinoma, right? It's a tumor that just churns out way too much prolactin. All that extra prolactin then goes and tells the hypothalamus to stop making GnRH, and without GnRH, the entire reproductive system basically gets shut down. This can lead to all sorts of issues, from amenorrhea all the way to long-term bone loss.
And this brings up such a crucial point about hormones. It's not just about what gets released, it's about how it gets released. The body's natural way is to release GnRH in these little pulses, and that's what triggers puberty and fertility. But, and this is wild, if you give that exact same hormone in a constant, steady stream, it does the opposite. It actually shuts the whole system down. It's proof that with hormones, timing is absolutely everything.
So, okay, after all that talk about complexity, precursors, cell types, rhythms, it's almost refreshing to remember that this system also has moments of incredible simplicity. The entire whole job of the posterior pituitary, it boils down to this one number, 2. That's it. It just handles two key messengers that the hypothalamus makes, ADH and oxytocin. That's a stark contrast, right? It's just simple and super specialized. So when you step back and look at the whole picture, what you have is this breathtakingly complex and constant conversation happening inside you. The hypothalamus is talking to the pituitary, and the pituitary is sending out these hormonal messages to every single corner of your body, regulating thousands of things every second without you ever having to think about it once.
And that really brings us to a pretty mind-bending final thought, doesn't it? When you realize that this incredibly intricate chemical dance is directing your feelings of connection, your mood swings, your physical growth, it really makes you wonder, right? How much of who you are is a conscious choice, and how much is just pure chemistry, all of it orchestrated by this tiny, hidden command center deep inside your